So at the end of that last video, I mentioned how I tend to side more with a rational morality based on empathy and collective well-being rather than a morality based on self-interest, which could also be rational. That's the thing with rationality. You can apply the method of breaking situations up into ratio to many different fields of inquiry and get the answers that you were looking for, but it's always based on a certain premise. What are you trying to do? So rationality is, in a sense, it's instrumental. When you apply it to a certain task, it will, more often than not, if it's done in a logical way, a step-by-step fashion, without contradicting itself, you will arrive at that end. The trick is, of course, finding the right beginning point, devising the right axioms. And I think a self-interested moral system begins from a certain assumption, the assumption being that each individual person has a will or an ego which is in control of that person's actions. Now, I think this is metaphysically naive, because if we explore our own first-person experience, where is this ego and this willpower? It's not there. Not that we're determined and we have no freedom, but in each moment, my moods are changing, for example. My surroundings are changing. I don't have control over those things. I can certainly, over time, change my habits, change my locations, but for the most part, I do not have total control over my setting or my set, meaning my environment or my state of mind, my mood. These are things which, to a large extent, happen to me. I was born into a certain family, raised in a certain social context with a certain religious background, went to a certain public school with certain teachers and certain peers that shaped who I am today. And then for me to pretend like I can look out for my own self-interest assumes that I am somehow a discrete locus of control that was never influenced by any of those contextual factors in my past or any of the contextual factors which are influencing me right now. And I don't see that as a possibility, or at least as a legitimate possibility that is supported by much phenomenological evidence, meaning me personally, in my own experience, I can't pawn off responsibility for my life onto others. I'm not saying that, but I'm not able at the same time to take total responsibility for everything that happens on myself, because it's just not that simple. And I think, on the other hand, a morality based on empathy is a lot more feasible, because we can all take the perspective of others. And while I don't have this ego or will that is influenced by the outside to control myself, there is this inner sense of experience that allows me to take the perspective of others. And it also allows me to take a third-person perspective, where I can see the big picture and see that the collective is, in some cases, more important than myself. And this allows me to, for example, make moral decisions about ecology and global warming and how we treat the environment. How many, how much am I going to exploit the resources mined from the environment if I am directed by self-interest alone, and how much am I going to exploit if I am directed by a sense of collective well-being? I think there's a difference. Self-interested morality may be more short-sighted than the collective sense of morality. And see, in the first place, because I don't think there is even such a thing as a rational will or ego in control of my action, even making this dichotomy between a self-interested morality and an empathetic morality is, in a sense, pointless, because there is no distinction. We are all social beings, and we make decisions based on social context, on what we think others would think of the decisions that we make, because the ego itself is a social construct. The self, which is supposed to be self-interested, is a social construct. And this is what I was trying to get into in my first video about morality to Kim, existentialist cat, that the notion of moral autonomy is a contradiction in terms, because morality is a social phenomenon. And to be morally autonomous is impossible. To know what is moral, you have to be part of a community that values things in a collective way. You learn to value the things that you value because your society values them. So it's not that I don't like a self-interested morality, it's that I don't think it's possible. So let me know what you think.